Right, but I have to do another review. I said I was going to do this anyway when I almost finished what I was doing. Now this originally came from Simplicity Pattern 4923, which is an adult pirate costume. Now they wanted me to explain some of the problems I come across actually making the outfit and what it looked like when it was finished. But I thought I'd take you through the whole costume now that it's sort of almost there. So we're going to start with basically like the wig, the hat, and the bandana. Now, as you can see, the hat. Now, this was one of the things that people asked me about more than anything at all, was how I made the hat. But it's actually made out of a piece of leatherette, just a circle of leatherette, but it's not a complete circle. It's almost like an oval shape once it's done. You can see the inside there. It's not very good, but it's convincing enough for most people. Now, the aging process was just literally, once I'd finished it, I just dry brushed it with different shades of brown and black paint, made it more look leathery and old and aged. So that was the finished item, or the, well, one of them anyway. So there was a couple I was actually making. So they actually started out. Someone said, "What did I use for the actual headpiece?" Well, I bought these come from a toy shop. And they're like a child's pirate hat. Well, they're miles too big for a child anyway. They actually swamped me. I mean, but you need to, if you're doing these, you've got to account for the size of the wig and the bandana as well. So that's sort of like the head base. They're sort of made out, I think they're made out of like a bit of, it's like felt and formed probably in a mould. But anything really, an old hat from a charity shop or something like that, you could just use the base of it. And again, the leatherette, like I said, was just a circle or a semicircle of brown leatherette. Sewn right round the edges, and then just weathered in and with a bit of black pen just to make it to hide the white edge. That's what you start out with, and then of course that's just glued inside the actual base itself. When it came down to the bandana itself, you can see that I'll move it a little bit closer, and you can see the detail on there. But this started off, this was just a bit of red material, polyester cotton, bright red, but to weather it I just put it in some bleach overnight, let it dry out, and it's just faded it down a bit. And all the detail you can see on it is actually hand drawn on with indelible ink pen, brown indelible ink pen. All the flowers themselves are just penciled in with a tailor's chalk or tailor's marker with light blue. So I don't know how long that'll actually stay on there, but the actual coochie dangle itself, the coin, is made out of air dry clay, just formed and then painted silver. Just a few bees to add onto it. Now the wig itself, all the dreadlocks are actually handmade, and all I've done there was just used a crochet needle, twisted them, combed them, and then just when they were formed I've just gone it over with a hot air gun just to make them a bit more frizzy. You can see the dreadlocks there. Now this started off, it was just a wig from Amazon, just a black wig, synthetic wig, and then just dreadlocked and made to look like Jack Sparrow. You can see the actual tail piece, the ponytail at the back, and that's just bound up with some brown cord like the original. Now the only thing I didn't actually make myself was actually the coochie dangles. Now these were actually bought from Amazon again. They're not 100% accurate. I mean, they're good enough to fool most people, but again, as and when I will get round to making a proper dangle. But they're good, but for what they are, I thought they was a bit expensive, and they could have done better really. You can see the beads on there, coins in the hair. Anyway, that was the wig. So moving on down. Now initially when I first started, and I did review this before, which was actually the waistcoat. Now this one was made out of blue polyester cotton. The buttons were quite shiny, but they were gold buttons, which are not right. So, and this was actually made small. Now this was a problem I found with the pattern itself. They give you 3 sizes: small, medium, extra small. So I made this extra small, thinking, oh, my size, I'm going to be extra small. Well, it's actually too small. It wouldn't even do up. So, so the next one I made was actually I think I made it medium or small. I can't remember now. I think it was medium size. So you've really got to judge your size. Now I'm roughly the same height. I'm 5'9", 5'9 and a half. I'm about the same weight and the same build as Johnny Depp himself. So it wasn't too bad that, you know, I can actually wear these. But again, we did review this before, the actual shirt. Now again, this was made medium, which is miles too big for me. It literally swamps me, you know. It looks good. It's got all the gabbers in the sleeves, and the cords in there, and it's like the ruffled sleeves again, cuffs. I made these 2 pieces on the cuffs, just like the film, like the screen original. But again, like I say, you've got to really judge the size of the pattern for yourself. Right, in onto the second one I made. Now the shirt, this was made small, which actually is actually still slightly too big to me on the arms, but I've got quite short arms, so this was you can see the detail on there. And there's the cuffs again, 2-piece cuffs again. They're quite floppy, just like the originals. You can leave these open, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if you've got a button on them. I have got a button on them, but you don't really need the button on there. The waistcoat itself, now this started off as a blue cotton tablecloth, and I thought, oh, it's a bit too bright. So again, it's been bleached and left out in the sun, and it's had a bit of brown dye added to it. Because if you look at some of the screenshots, the waistcoat actually looks more browny blue than anything, and it's almost grey in places where it's weathered. So again, on the back, I altered the pattern again, but I've used lace there to gather it up a bit. This material, I think this was a pair of curtains. It has got a fleck in it. I don't know if you can actually see that on camera, but there is a slight fleck. And it should be a more browny grey, and it should have bigger flecks in it. But again, it's what material you can find at the time. So I was limited by going around charity shops and buying old curtains and bits and pieces. You can see this is fully lined, the brown lining, and the buttons are plastic buttons, but they've been aged to look more like bronze, slightly weathered. So you can see there, like, yeah. So that was the shirt and the waistcoat. Now this pattern actually follows the waistcoat quite well. I mean, it is quite long, but if you look at some of the screenshots in the first Pirates of the Caribbean film, it is quite a long waistcoat. It comes almost down to mid-thigh level. So I think that's more accurate than some of the waistcoats you see. So the only thing I did, I altered the pockets as well, put more shape to them. You can see there's more of a shape to the pocket and the 3 buttons, and these are actually workable pockets as well. So as you can see, you can actually stash your stuff away in them. So right, that was that. Now breaking away from the costume itself, someone asked me how did I make the Baldric sword belt. Well, this is actually made, you can see that, again out of leatherette. Not entirely accurate. I mean, there's no pattern on it, and it should be a little bit wider. But you can see the belt there. And the buckle itself, again, it's just made out of air dry clay. So, and that's just been painted with a gold paint and then weathered with a bit of black, and just to make it look a bit more authentic. So that was handmade. And again with the sun belt, as you can see, buckle there, again just made out of air dry clay, and it's just been sanded down and filed to give it a raw edge around there. And the actual detail you see is actually just painted on, so you know, unless you get close, you can't actually see that it's been painted. But again, fairly accurate to what it is on screen. But it should have been wider. The belt should have been wider. So, but I've made this a two-piece belt. Someone said all about the other belt, but if you remember in the first Pirates of the Caribbean film, he only wore one belt. He didn't have the Anna Maria belt. That only came along in Pirates of the Caribbean 2 and 3. So I'm sticking with the one belt. Right, let's get down to the sash. Now, again, trying to find an accurate copy of the sash. I mean, the only way you're going to get it is to go on eBay and buy one. But I've got something was fairly close. I mean, it's red and white, which is all that really matters, and it'll fool most people most of the time. So, and this has just been frayed and weathered and aged, and a bit of brown dye again. You can see the all tattered at the edge. This is quite long. This is about 3 meters, probably 4 meters long. So it's more than enough to go around you about 4 or 5 times. But that's actually what you want. So that's the sash. Any questions, feel free to give me a message on YouTube or email me. Right, someone said about the sword. Now, like Norrington said to Jack in the first film, he said, and I half expected it to be made of wood. Well, actually, guess what? It is made out of wood. It's just made out of MDF. Scabbard's just made out of leatherette again, with a bit of air dry clay round the top, and this is just glued straight to it. And of course, as you can see, it's just this was a bit of oak, well aged oak, just very thin, sanded down, and then just painted silver. Convincing, not accurate, but again, it's what you've got to play around with. While we're at it, someone asked me about the flintlock pistol. Well, again, not being having a lot of money to myself, I had to make everything that's on display. So this was made out of wood again. Yeah, it was all made out of wood, apart from the barrel. It's made out of a bit of copper pipe. And then you can see some of the details. Details are just painted on, quite convincing from a distance. So nothing really works. Well, it does. You can pull the hammer back, but it's not a firing model or a working model. And you can see the detail, which is just, again, air dry clay and just carved and filed to make it look like a face. So that came out quite well. But quite pleased with that. So that's the flintlock. Now, before I get on to I'll do the trousers next. When I got to the pants itself, or the breeches, these are very good. The pattern is very, very good for these breeches, and they're very simple to make. Very, very simple. And I've got, like I said, no experience of sewing. I just bought myself a sewing machine and just had a go. So if I can do it, I think probably anybody can. But as you can see, nice grey material, grey brown, flap down on the front with 3 buttons. I've put 2 buttons. That's the only alteration to the pattern. Again, I've got 2 buttons here and a wider waistband. Because if you look at the screenshots, the waistband on the original breeches is quite wide, so they come out well. The original saggy bottom. I don't think they were very fashionable in those days, anyway. And when it comes down to the cuffs themselves, I've got 4 buttons on there instead of the 3 that they show. And again, I've made a cuff up at the bottom, and the idea is I'm going to add a buckle to this at a later date, but you don't need to, because it's tucked inside the boot, and you maybe just have that flapped outside the boot. So they're quite good. I was quite pleased with them, the way they came out, and they're quite comfortable as well. So yeah, really enjoyed making them. So that's the breeches. Moving down to the last item. Now boots themselves, I mean, unless you're going to go out and pay, I mean, you can pay anything up to £500 for a pair of original boots. Now, I was lucky to have a pair of old chisel-toed bike boots, basically the biker boots, and all I've done really, I've sprayed them a browny colour, aged them a bit with brown black paint, and then just given them gloss over. And the cuff itself, the actual, this is just made out of leatherette again, so as you can see, pretty much what you see. I mean, like I say, again, from a distance, it's going to be quite convincing to people anyway. So that was that. So that was almost a complete review of it. Like I said, I didn't have too much problem. The shirt is a bit of a nightmare to make. I mean, getting all the gathers right. But once you've made 2 or 3, then you think, oh, that's not too bad. Now, the last thing I did make, which I admitted, I thought, well, hang on a minute, has it got a compass? So this was made from, originally I looked at the paper model that you can buy on Disney site, and it's 3.5 inches wide. Now if you look at some of the screenshots, now you can see my hands are quite small, so and it's way too wide, I think. So I think it needs to be about 3 inches, so I'm making another one just to make sure that it looks about the right size. But again, if you make it the paper model's okay, but all I've done, I've just made this out of wood, a bit of MDF, you can see inside there, painted blue with a few little silver dots that look like stars, and a gilt gold paint, but it should be white. The actual inlay should be white, but gold looks quite nice. You can see the dial, that actually came from the paper model, and that's just been glued to a disc inside, and it's all, well, it will turn, but anyway. But there you go, that was the compass. But we'll be making another one of them as and when, and of course I've still got to put a catch on it. There you go. So that was a little review of Simplicity Pattern 4923. Definitely have a go at it if you buy it, but look at the sizes and judge the sizes for yourself. You know, measure yourself up first and have a look. But it was a good pattern, and I thoroughly enjoyed making it. So anyway, thank you for watching, and have a good day, and I'll be back again soon.